The city in the Donbass has become a destructive vortex for Ukrainian and Russian forces. Russian forces are essentially digging into defensive positions for the winter. But Russia is also mounting a desperate attempt to capture Bakhmut, a city that has become a destructive vortex for both countries' militaries in Ukraine's Donbass region. Russian troops are trying to strangle the city from the east and south, according to Ukrainian soldiers. For months, both sides have thrown masses of troops and materiel into battle there. My colleagues Thomas Gibbons-Neff, Natalia Yermak, and Tyler Hicks report. Doctors report an almost unending stream of Ukrainian casualties at the city's only military hospital. By midday Friday, they had counted 50 wounded. The day before, 240 people had come through the hospital's doors. Ukrainian soldiers say that the attacking Russians are suffering far worse, cut down by artillery and machine gun fire. Newly mobilized Russian soldiers are just taking a rifle and walking right down, like in Soviet times, a Ukrainian medic said. He gets killed, and the next one comes up the same way. Russia's fighting force in Bakhmut is led by the Wagner Group, a private mercenary outfit with direct ties to the Kremlin. After Russia retreated from Kherson earlier this month, rank-and-file forces redeployed from the south are now supporting Wagner Group fighters, according to a U.S. defense official and Ukrainian soldiers. Ukraine has sent floods of reinforcements, including special forces troops and territorial defense fighters, according to soldiers, residents, and a U.S. defense official. It has also deployed large quantities of Western-supplied shells and rockets. In the 6 months that I've been in Bakhmut, I have never seen our artillery working like this, a Ukrainian soldier in the city said, referring to the volume of Ukrainian shells fired. Analysts say that Russia's military is unlikely to succeed in capturing Bakhmut, given the degradation of its forces and ammunition shortages after a series of setbacks. Still, Russia can turn the city into a resource-intensive black hole for Ukraine, taking troops away from other priorities, including future offensives. The Western weapons shortage. When the Soviet Union collapsed 3 decades ago, European nations drastically reduced their armories, thinking that a land war in Europe would never happen again. They were wrong. The war is now chewing up those modest stockpiles of weapons as Europeans, along with the US, race to arm Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine are also burning through weaponry and ammunition at their staggering paces. In Afghanistan, NATO forces might have fired 300 artillery rounds a day and had no real worries about air defense. But Ukraine can fire thousands of rounds daily and remains desperate for air defense against Russian missiles and Iranian-made drones. A day in Ukraine is a month or more in Afghanistan, one defense expert said. Last summer in the Donbass region, the Ukrainians were firing 6,000 to 7,000 artillery rounds each day, a senior NATO official said. The Russians were firing 40,000 to 50,000 rounds per day. By comparison, the US produces 15,000 rounds each month. The West is scrambling to find increasingly scarce Soviet-era equipment and ammunition that Ukraine can use now and is sending strong signals to defense industries that longer-term contracts are in the offing. There are even discussions about NATO investing in old factories in the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Bulgaria to restart the manufacturing of Soviet-caliber 152mm and 122mm shells for Ukraine's Soviet-era artillery. In total, NATO countries have so far provided some $40 billion in weaponry to Ukraine, roughly the size of France's annual defense budget. The Russians, too, are having resupply problems of their own. Moscow is also trying to ramp up military production and is reportedly seeking to buy missiles from North Korea and more cheap drones from Iran. High-tech cannons supplied by the US and its allies are burning out after months of overuse or being damaged in combat. Repair work is being done at a facility in Poland set up by the Pentagon's European Command. The Pentagon is considering a Boeing proposal to supply Ukraine with cheap, small precision bombs fitted onto rockets, allowing Kyiv to strike far behind Russian lines, Reuters reported. Russia is planning to launch another wave of missiles targeting energy infrastructure this week, the Ukrainian military said. Ben Hodges, a former commanding general of the U.S. Army in Europe, told The Economist Asks podcast that Ukraine has achieved irreversible momentum in the war and could declare victory by the summer. Alyona Sinenko wrote about her wedding in Odessa amid blackouts and bombs. the foreign minister of Belarus, who led a failed attempt to thaw relations between his country and the West, died suddenly over the weekend. Thousands of Russians are crossing the U.S. southern border, but contrary to their expectations of asylum, many of them are being put into immigration detention centers. European officials are accusing the U.S. of profiting from the war by selling natural gas and weapons at inflated prices, Politico reports. A Russian disinformation campaign alleging that the U.S. supported secret biological weapons labs in Ukraine is likely to undermine negotiations at a global conference, Bloomberg reports. Russia has postponed a meeting with U.S. officials to discuss the last remaining nuclear arms treaty between the two countries. President Volodymyr Zelensky will join the Dealbook summit via video link on Wednesday.
They're running back. Hey, Charlie. In. Hey, we need to push in further.
Alpha, bound forward. Alpha, bound forward. Bravo, Charlie, cover.
Shepard, do you have a beat off?
He ran back.
Alpha on line. Alpha on line.
Smoke right, smoke right.
All right, Woods.
Get back, Woods.
Oh!